Hello my friends, I hope you're doing well today and welcome to r/ProRevenge, where you'll hear stories of people getting what they deserve. Guys, in this episode, you'll hear about a dirty, disgusting roommate, an exchange student who happens to be a bully, an employer who just ghosts employees instead of firing them, and we'll finish off with a dad dealing with a drink thief in a very unique way. I hope you guys stay for the stories today and do hit that subscribe button for future revenge stories. Let's get into it. This happened in 2015. I lived with my friend Katie and her younger sister Sarah for a year at university. At the start of the year, we had all agreed that the communal areas were to be kept clean and clutter-free since it was a small flat and had a weekly cleaning roster. We also agreed that if we were going to bring any guys back to the flat, to warn others just so we know who's coming and going for security reasons, since the student area we lived in was notorious for break-ins. Sarah became the biggest, most disrespectful pain in the ass. She started off cleaning and helping out around the flat and telling us when she had guys over, and there were a lot of guys she brought over. Then as the months passed on, she stopped telling us that she was bringing guys over altogether. Katie and I would wake up in the morning to random, mostly naked strangers in the kitchen eating our food, using our shower, or just dashing naked out of the flat holding his belongings. Sarah also stopped cleaning and left a huge mess in the kitchen after cooking and never cleaned up, and there was a horrific odor coming from her bedroom because she never opened her window or cleaned out her personal trash. Items such as used sanitary pads and tampons would sit in her bin for a week or more, and most likely used condoms would too. She was really unhygienic, had halitosis but never kept up oral hygiene, and rarely had showers. The next bit is when I got beyond pissed off with her. One weekend Katie was out of town and their parents rang Sarah for a catch-up around 4 p.m. one Friday afternoon. Sarah tells them she can't talk and that she's got a 20% assignment due a few days later, which she had to work on. 20 minutes later, one of her many guys comes over. I went to bed around 10 p.m. I had a 35% assignment due the week following, so the next few days I'd planned to dedicate to this assignment. That night, I woke at about midnight to Sarah and her bang crashing around in the kitchen. Lots of laughing, screeching, pots and pans crashing about, TV blasting in the lounge. I was pissed, but I fell back asleep and woke up again at about 3 a.m. to them going through all the drawers in the bathroom and slamming them shut. Sarah and her bang went through my personal drawer and Katie's looking for condoms. All I could hear were, "Where are the condoms?" They even tried to break into Katie's room looking for some, but Katie had locked her door and hidden her spare key, which was a smart move. They crashed about and slammed the bedroom door and proceeded to have loud, vigorous sex for the rest of the night. And no one wants to hear a headboard hitting the wall and sex noises. I had to sleep with a movie playing through my headphones for the rest of the night just so I couldn't hear them. I got up at 6 a.m. with next to no sleep to a filthy kitchen with food smeared on the bench, the TV still on, and some of my personal food missing. Pots and pans were left all over the stove with food in them, and my belongings from my drawer in the bathroom were on the floor. Oh, and the front door was unlocked. I left her a note on the outside of her door calling her a rude and disrespectful bitch, and that she's not the only one who lives in the flat. That night was my last straw with Sarah after months of her being a disrespectful roommate. She never apologized for that night and didn't even clean up the tornado mess in the kitchen and lounge. Every time myself or Katie would confront her, she'd cry, saying she didn't mean it and that she's trying to be better, but nothing ever changed. Since Sarah's room was a pigsty and had a feral odor coming from her room, I went to the store and bought sardines and broccoli. I got the liquid the sardines were in, which absolutely reeked, and poured it, along with the blended day-old broccoli, into a spray bottle. While Sarah was out, I went into her room and sprayed that feral concoction on her clothes that were on the floor, the clean clothes in her closet, in her shoes, and in her bed. I tipped the remaining offensive-smelling concoction into her shampoo. I removed all of the evidence of the sardine concoction from the flat. Garbage day came and went, and I was in the clear. Sarah never took the garbage out, so how would she know what was in the bin? Since she emptied her bin once in a blue moon, I put a sardine in her bin, wrapped in some tissues, and left it. While the fish started rotting, and the clothes and shoes reeked. And Sarah, being the moron that she is, didn't empty her bin until 2 weeks after I put the sardine in there. Her room, honestly, I can't even describe how bad it smelled. I came back from uni one day to Sarah crying to Katie because she couldn't get rid of the smell. Katie got so mad at her and yelled at her for not cleaning and being unhygienic for literally months, and had it aired out for weeks, but the smell never left her room completely and was still in her bed sheets because it soaked into her mattress. When their parents came by for a visit, they yelled at Sarah for smelling, and her mom screamed that they didn't raise Sarah to be so disgusting, and that was music to my ears. Her super annoying friends stopped showing up unannounced, and the guy stopped coming over too. I never expected my Reiki concoction to work such wonders. My room and the rest of the flat smelled fine. The lingering smell was just in Sarah's room. I was astounded that it took that sardine concoction to get Sarah to clean and air out her room, and that the smell of rotting tampons and condoms were not as offensive to her. Sarah failed her assignment, and I got 91% in mine, which made me so happy. That's the only evil thing I've ever done, and I've not told anyone what I did, but personal revenge never felt and smelt so good. There are so many revenge stories about people leaving rotting smells for people to suffer with, but this story has gotta be one of my favorites. It actually has a point to it, and actually teaches her a lesson to be a cleaner person altogether, rather than just throwing that smell into her room for revenge's sake. This next story's titled, I thought ghosting was for Tinder dates, not employees. So I've been working for a fast food shop for about 3 years now, and the place is an absolute hellhole. This past year, we've had 7 general managers, and double that for the amount of associate employees to roll through. The turnover rate is ridiculous. That being said, I'm the only employee to know how to do everything at the store because I've been there for so long, or at least I was. I went home for a month and a half ago for fall break. I told the new manager Josh, who started a week before I left, the date that I would be back. During the break, I was kicked out of our group chat, and I also noticed that our employee app, Jolt, for anyone who cares, was saying that I wasn't registered to the company anymore. So I texted our GM, no answer. Then I texted one of my fellow shift managers, who had been there for about 3 months at the time, and he says that Josh just let me go because he felt like I didn't respect him as the general manager, and I belittled him by always telling him what to do, aka training him. Who ghosts their most experienced employees instead of firing them to their face over a text? Being that I had put 3 years into this company, and actually very much enjoyed my job, I was livid. I felt disrespected that the dude didn't even have the balls to answer my text. I thought about going to the store and trashing it, as the idiot didn't even collect the keys to the store, and I know they wouldn't have changed the alarm code, but I didn't want to be legally accountable. So I got a new job and had to take a slight pay cut, but I worked my way up fast and became a shift manager again, and now I'm a department manager working at a local grocery store. And the revenge, I've hired the entire staff from my old job. Being that I know how lazy Josh was, he wouldn't have learned how to do anything for himself, and just relied on what I taught my other shift managers. He's gone from a staff of 3 knowledgeable managers and 5 reliable associates to 0. He's going to be scrambling for new hires, and might even have to shut down the store for a couple of weeks until he finds some. I only wish I could see it for myself. Guys, I don't know anything about labor laws or anything, but is what Josh did legal? Can you actually just ghost an employee like that and not have legal repercussions come your way due to labor laws, etc.? This story is titled, Got a foreign exchange student sent home to her own country for relentlessly bullying my sister. My sister was bullied relentlessly in high school for something she literally had 0 control over, a certain part of her anatomy. Without going into details, she felt terrible about it, and it more or less ruined her life as an insecure 15-year-old girl. The girl responsible for most of the cruel bullying, and the one who gave her a particularly cruel nickname related to her physical issue, was called Nadia. Nadia was a foreign exchange student at our school. Nadia was beautiful, but she was cruel, and did not give any cares about anybody but herself. I wasn't Miss Popularity myself, but I had to protect my sister from having her life ruined, and I felt a very strong urge to get back at her tormentors. They say to kill a dragon with many heads, you've got to cut off the main head, so that's what I did. I learned that the father of Nadia was very conservative. Her whole family back home was. So I started spreading rumors about her being very promiscuous and ensured that those rumors reached the family she was staying with. This apparently caused her some trouble, but I wasn't done. I threw a party one night when my parents were gone. I invited Nadia, who gladly came as I was the cooler, older girl, and somehow she never said no to a chance to get hammered, because yes, there was a lot of liquor. I made sure of that. I took pictures of everyone drinking and having fun. That same night when everybody left, I put it all on my Facebook. I tagged Nadia on it as she was my Facebook friend. She had this option turned on where everything she's tagged in is automatically allowed on her timeline. So a picture of her, drunk and very skimpily dressed, made its way to her page. Because of it being the middle of the night, she must have not noticed until the next day in the morning, so it stayed on for hours. But due to her parents' time zone being vastly different, I was sure they would see it before she had a chance to take it down. And they did. I wasn't there to see the fallout, obviously, but she was gone the next week from school and flown back to her home country. Apparently, her parents had to save her from being corrupted or something, so she was gone, and my sister's safe from ridicule. As word of my involvement spread, let's just say people didn't want to mess with my sister after seeing how far I was willing to go to protect her. That's some really good big sister revenge, OP. To have somebody get deported for picking on your little sister. This last story is titled, Revenge on a Tea Thief. Many years ago, in the early 70s, my dad came home complaining that someone was drinking the iced sweet tea he took for lunch. He's getting ready to eat, and half would be gone. He didn't know if they were using a cup or drinking it straight from the thermos, and considering the group he worked with, he wasn't going to take any risks. This left him with only water for lunch, and this happened several times when he finally decided to do something about it. He went to the pharmacy and asked for the strongest laxative they had. The pharmacy asked why he wanted one that strong, and my dad explained the situation. The pharmacist, an older gentleman that had been running the store most of his life, told my dad it was a bad idea since it could cause dehydration and other problems. Instead, he handed my dad a bottle labeled Essence of Peppermint and told him to use the entire bottle in the thermos. He also told my dad that if anybody asked what was in the tea, to just say don't worry about it. This was truthful. He said that drinking the entire bottle would only settle your stomach if you had indigestion, and nothing more. The next day, he took the spiked tea to work, and sure enough at lunch, he found the spiked tea had been tapped again. He recapped it, remarked that he'd soon know who took the tea, and finished his lunch. A few minutes later, a coworker came to him holding his stomach, demanding to know what was in the tea. My dad just said, "Don't worry about it." Shortly after that, the coworker left work sick. Soon, his wife called and asked my dad what was in the tea, as her husband was moaning that he was in pain and had been poisoned. My dad told her what was in it and told her to call the pharmacist and verify that it was harmless. She was laughing too hard to even say goodbye as she hung up the phone. First, when I read the story, I thought it was going to be another pro-revenge involving laxatives, but the dad getting advice from a pharmacist to use a harmless, natural, pure peppermint oil was genius. Definitely love this pro-revenge. And that's it for this episode of r/pro-revenge. If you guys enjoyed that story, hit the thumbs up. If you're unsubscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future revenge stories. And I'll see you guys in the next one.